welcome to the Bobby Kudo Show. Thank you so much, Aaron Bernardo Boxing, bro. Thank you for making it, Coach. I really appreciate you making it to the show today. If anybody doesn't know, it's a shitstorm in New England. It's snowing, it's ice, and I just want to say thank you, sir, for taking the time and still making it here and making it on time and being a part of the show, brother.
Man. No, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Listen, I want to hit the ground running right away, and I want to tell you that I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
I know what you do, brother. It's one, I'm a fan of boxing, like in general. Like I'm an older person, so I remember the days that there were two options. There was boxing and wrestling. Those were your two options,
right? Yep.
And for me, boxing was always those huge events. Like anytime I ever thought about boxing, was always those major events that the whole country would come together to watch. It's a little different now and a little more streamlined. And I honestly, between you and I believe that it's making a huge comeback in the industry. I think people are realizing, with the birth of the UFC and how that's its own entity. And then you've got these boxing events, kind of much like Tyson, that recent event that he had. I'm not sure like how that all went in general. I did watch it. I did catch it.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the boxing industry and how that promotes the boxing industry because I don't know. To me, it was more of a show, a kind of a pay-per-view event as opposed to the detail. And of course, I'm sure you would know that much more than I would. And I digress. But I want to say thank you again for coming in and sharing your time. I know that you're super, super busy. You shape a lot of lives, bro. I've had the opportunity, the Bobby Kudo Show is a sponsor. I had the opportunity to be a part of the community event last year. And just, for me, I was taken back by sitting down and just looking at all the kids and families that were present that day, along with the sponsors and how engaged everybody was and how great it was to be a part of the community. And thank you for that.
Yeah, man,
you guys do that often? I know your wife had a big part of that. Is that something you guys do often?
Yeah, so, ever since I came into the CYO, it's just an amazing venue. I was able to put my gym downstairs on the main level, and then upstairs we have the event hall. Yeah. And that was really the enticing factor to me to move to the CYO. Yeah. Because before that, I was in Swansea.
Okay.
And
you were renting a space in Swansea?
I was renting a space in Swansea, and I was comfortable, man. But comfortability is never good. You know what I mean?
It's not.
It's good to make yourself uncomfortable and take chances. So, I had a friend of mine, a business partner, and we had worked together in the past and stuff. And I actually trained his sons. And he was like, "Hey, listen, man. Like, we have this building. It's gonna be going up. Yeah. We need somebody to take it over. What do you feel about it?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. I'm kind of comfortable over here." And then I talked to my wife and a few good friends of mine. They're like, "Hey, listen, man. Like, when it feels scary to jump, right?"
Right.
So I was like, "You know what? Let's do it." And then when I went to the venue, when I went to the CYO, I actually had never trained there. I was a PAL kid. So when I competed, I was at PAL. I was at JoJo's Boxing on Columbia Street, and so I never was a CYO kid. I never even really played basketball there. I know a lot of people grew up playing basketball there. So when I walked in that building, man, I just felt something special. You know what I mean? I felt the aura, and my wife, who's like one of the best judges of character, and just like she's just like my everything. Like,
obviously,
yeah. Thank you so much. So I take her opinion means a lot to me.
Sure.
And she just loved the building. She's like, "Hey, I have a really good feeling about this. Like, I think we should do it." And when I went upstairs and I saw the hall, I said, "Man, like, one thing I've always wanted to be, I'm always going to be a coach first.
Sure.
But I've always wanted to be a promoter. I've always wanted to promote events, and I've always wanted to do it the right way because I've been in the ring. I've been on the other side. I've coached the athletes.
Sure.
I am a manager. So when I promote shows and deal with athletes, I deal with it from their perspective. You know what I mean? And I saw that venue, man. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do this thing.
So could we take a step back? How old are you the first time you put some gloves on? Or what's that experience? What's that first experience for you where you realize, wow, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, so the first time I ever put gloves on, I'm a funny guy. So, like, you ask me about the Super Bowl, some people might get mad at this and be like, what the hell? But, I'm not a big sports guy. I was never a big sports guy. My dad was never really a big sports guy. I always, enjoyed playing sports. I've always been an athletic guy. But watching it and stuff and getting super involved in it, never really. I'm a big nerd. I'm a big comic book nerd. Yeah. I'm a big movie guy.
Do people know that about you? Do people know that you're comic books?
If you come to my gym, my offices are decorated in comic book and toys. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's kind of who I am.
Yeah. I'm a fan as well.
Yeah, man. And that's just kind of always been my personality. But growing up, I always wanted to be two things. I wanted to help people and I wanted to be a superhero. You know what I mean? So Out of high school, I became an EMT. I ended up working as a corrections officer. Like, I was gonna go to the police force, but I ended up, going this route instead. And I just tried to figure out, like, what can I do to help people, but also, like, fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you knew you wanted to fight. Boxing.
I always knew
boxing was going to be the catalyst.
I was probably 9 years old the first time I ever kind of like put boxing gloves on and started hitting the bag. And my father had boxed before. He never, competed, in sanctioned, but he had done some, exhibitions, and he always trained in the sport. And when I was 11 years old, my dad sat me down. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna change things up for you a bit." And I watched the first Rocky movie with him.
Yeah.
And I just like fell in love, man. Like, I don't know, like just the story and the sport, and I wanted to box so bad. So he started training me. He started, teaching me the sport and stuff. My mother forbid it. Like, she didn't want me to fight.
Really?
No, she hates the sport. Like, she appreciates the sport, but she, she's an old school Portuguese woman.
Sure.
So she didn't want it. And for a long time, my dad wouldn't bring me to the gym. And then finally, when I was almost going to be 14, he brought me to the PAL. And I met Libby Medeiros at the PAL. And it was the first time I walked in there. I'll never forget, I walked into his office, and I was always a big kid. And he looked at me, and he looked at my dad. He said, "What the hell's in the water nowadays?" And, I started training, man. And the first time I got in the ring was against a guy who it was crazy. So I trained for a while. Probably trained for about a year and a half.
So you're 14, 15.
Yeah, I'm about 14, 15 years old now. Yeah. So I'm like a sophomore in high school. And I do my first exhibition against this grown-ass man. And it's crazy. Like, he's so much older than me. He's muscular. He's big. Yeah. I've always, like, even in my best shape, I've always kind of had like the loose muscle fibers. I've never been jacked. Yeah. But I was in good shape.
Solid,
you know what I mean?
Big guy.
Just big guy. But I had a little bit of belly still. And I'm 15 years old. I'm a kid. Yeah. But I was always talented. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I got into coaching and how I kind of segued into like what I do now. I was always known as a tough kid. Yeah.
Because people can box, and everybody can coach, bro.
Yeah. So I was a scrappy guy. I was tough in the gym. I sparred everybody. I traveled around. I fought, and I kind of got that rap around Fall River, and then I kind of got thrown into coaching. But my first time in the ring is against a guy, I don't know, maybe he's like 20-something years old. He's a grown-ass man. Yeah. And I remember he had a back like Mike Tyson. Like, he was just huge. And I remember Libby looking at me and being like, "You're going to be fine." And I was nervous. I'm like, "No." I'm like, I'm not. Like, he's going to kill me. Like,
yeah, right.
And he's like, "It's good you think that way, but believe me, I can see these things. Like, you're going to be okay." Yeah. And I ended up going in there, and I ended up busting the dude's nose, and blood everywhere. And it was just like that moment right there. I was like, "Damn, like, wow,
you can do it.
I can do this." Yeah. And I realized that it's not muscles that win fights. It's not the looks that win fights. It's the training, the dedication, stylistically, and that's when my boxing brain really started to develop. You know what I mean? And man, just from then on, I just kept going, and I probably competed all the way up until I was about 23 years old.
Yeah. Now, was this something you were doing on your own, or was your dad was kind of your manager?
My dad was involved for a while, and then right after I graduated high school, he kind of stepped back, and he kind of was growing his business on the side, and kind of went into that. And you know how it is when you're a younger guy. You kind of just going to go off on your own.
Sure.
And I ended up going to JoJo's Boxing, competing out of there for a while.
And where were they located?
They were on Columbia Street, and then they moved into the BKJA, which was a mixed martial arts gym.
Okay.
On N1 Street.
Is that like where the Tipsy was over there? Like
that's no, that was another gym.
Oh, okay, all right.
I was
there was one over there.
We were on Anawan Street, right behind Wow.
Oh, all right.
That's where we were.
Okay, all right.
And we trained there for a while, and that was awesome for me because I got to box over there, and then I also got introduced into like the mixed martial arts world. And the martial arts world became near and dear to me because I met a lot of different like mixed martial artists over there, and the sensei over there, and he's actually the one who I competed for them for a while.
And who's this?
His name was Joe Borges.
Joe Borges.
Yeah, he owned the BKJ, which actually isn't around anymore. They closed down. I did the Mass versus Rhode Island show. It was a state show, and I did well in that. I won that, and then
real quick, how does that feel, man? Like,
yeah,
you're winning these things. Are you absorbing that? Are you?
Yeah.
Or is it just okay? On to the next one. On to the next one.
Yeah. No, it feels good. You know what I mean? Like you're in there. You're winning. You're feeling good. At the time, as a kid, like, I guess I don't think I appreciated it as much. You know what I mean? Because you're just like a young dumb kid. You know what I mean? Like, you're going from show to show, and you're doing these things, and you're gaining experience. But at at the time, I felt like it was almost like a nuisance sometimes. Like I'd rather just be hanging out with my girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like it was just a weird thing, you know. Like now looking back, I'm like, hey, I did that, man. Like, hey, you should be proud of yourself. You did that, man.
So is that something that you encourage your fighters to do? Like bathe in those wins, take a second, recognize.
I tell them, like, you know, enjoy the moments, but don't get comfortable with it too. Because one thing that I did, you know, when I did fight back then, I was there and it was like I did those things and it was like that was everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And now now they're just memories. You know what I mean? Yep. And I always tell my guys, don't be that. Don't be that guy. Don't be that, like, you know, 10, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, looking back, like, well, I did do that. Still do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Always try to do more. And obviously it brought me into another segue. And I'll be honest with you, like, I never, you know, being a professional was always a little bit of a dream of mine. But the real dream of mine was, it was funny. Like when I watched boxing on TV, I'd always look to the corner. You know, like I love the fighters, I love the technique, I love all that stuff. But I look in the corner, I'd see the Freddie Roaches, and I would hear the stories about Customato with Mike Tyson and the impact he had on him. Yeah. And I always looked at the corners. It was the corners, it was the trainers, and the impacts that they had on these kids' lives. And I always knew that like, that's what I wanted to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I did have the pro aspirations and stuff, and unfortunately, you know, with injuries and other things, that never happened for me. Right. But what I'm doing now is what I really feel I was put on this earth to do.
That's amazing. Yeah. What an amazing experience, right? To realize that you're right where you should be. You know what I mean? Like there's nowhere else, you know, I had to be. You're a father.
I'm a father.
You're a husband.
Yep.
And not just a father. You got a couple of kids.
4 kids.
4 children. And what are the ages?
So my oldest is 7.
Because you need credit for that. I got to give you credit. Go ahead.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. No, it's a lot. You know, so my oldest daughter, Lana, she's 7. Yeah. And then my oldest son, Merrick. They actually have the same birthday. They're Irish twins. Same birthday, February 2nd, Groundhog Day.
Oh, wow.
1 year apart. Crazy story. Weird, right? Yeah, so he's 6 years old. They just turned 7 and 6 a few weeks ago. Yeah. And then I have Lawton. He's 3. And then my youngest, May Marie, she is 1 year old.
Holy man, where do you find the time, bro? Yeah. So I'm my guest, and I've been to your gym. I've spent time there. I see them there. They're right. It's a part of the
every day.
Every day, right? It's a part of the
every day. So it's a culture. You know what I mean? So my kids, they're growing up in the gym, kind of like how I grew up in the gym. You know, but them from even a younger age. You know. So, you know, I you know, growing up, I got introduced into the sport. They're living the sport. Yep. You know what I mean? So, they take my kids' classes. My 2 oldest take my kids' classes. I have kids boxing every week, twice a week, 3 times a week. And my kids are there every class. And I'm not forcing them to be fighters. I'm not putting it onto them. But the discipline that they, you know, see, and, you know, just having to show up to class. After school, they ask me every day, Dad, do we have boxing class today? Yes, we have boxing class today. You know what I mean? Yep. And the days we don't, we don't. You know what I mean? Yep. Yep. And when I find some extra time, maybe I'll do some extra pads with my son, stuff like that. But I want him to be a little boy. You know what I mean? Like, people always ask me, they're like, hey, man, like, you're so involved. Like, you've helped so many fighters. You've done so much. Like, your kids are definitely going to fight, right? And I'm like, if they do, they do.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
When I was a little boy, man, like, up until, like, 8, 9, 10 years old, man, like, boxing really wasn't on my brain, really. Like, I remember the first time I put on gloves, my dad had got me, like, this little blue punching bag that said "Pow" on it, like when I was a little baby. Yeah. I remember when I was like 9, 10 years old, I put gloves on and I hit it a little bit, and then I put it down. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't until like I was like 11, 12 years old that it really like clicked in my brain. Like, damn, like I think I love this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. And I want my son to find that organically. Sure. My daughter, I want her to find that organically. All my sons and daughters, like if they find it organically, if it comes into their head, like, hey, you know, I want to do this, then that's the time to do it. But I don't want to force it on them. But of course. The discipline that they get with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? The focus that they get with it. The work ethic that they get with this. Hey, you don't always want to do these things, but you have to do these things. You know what I mean? Right. Daddy doesn't ask much of you, but on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you're going to run the stairs. You're going to go upstairs. You're going to do your drills, and you're going to do boxing class, and then you can play afterwards. And then you kind of use it as a reward system too. You know what I mean?
Sure, of course.
And that's good for kids to have. And
absolutely.
That's something I wish I had a little bit more as a young kid.
Yeah.
Because I lack discipline sometimes.
But don't we all though?
Don't we all?
And that's the difference between success and no success, right?
Yes,
the people that are able to push beyond that. I don't want to do this today.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. Right. But having my kids in the gym is an amazing thing. So they're with me every day. Yeah. Now that they're older, you know, it used to be this thing before, like building up the business. Like my wife's home with a couple, you know, with the 2 babies, the 3 babies. Yeah. But now that my kids are in school, they're older. They understand. They can kind of like, you know, do most stuff themselves now. It's an awesome thing, man. So I pick up my kids from school. You know, we go to the gym, and I have a big office. It's like a half office, half playroom.
Sure, right.
And my kids love it there. Like, it's funny. My 3-year-old yesterday, I went to the gym in the morning and they stood home, and we're driving around, we're doing groceries, doing errands, and he starts like almost like crying, like yelling at my wife, like, "Mommy, we no go to the gym today.
Aww.
We no go to the gym." Like, in his brain, it's like, "Hey man, we got to check this off the list. We got to go to the gym every day." Like, and I love that. It's an awesome thing to me. So, and I'm blessed and I'm fortunate that now, with how successful I've become, knock on wood, by the grace of God, I'm successful in my business now, and I get to spend the time with my family at the same time, because most men don't have that. No. Like, they're successful in their business, they're building, they're good.
That's separate. They're separated from their families.
They're separate lives. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I dealt with that for a little bit, for a short amount of time. I dealt with that, and it made me sad.
Yeah.
And I was a different guy back then. You know what I mean? Like, I had a different mindset. And now that my wife's so incorporated in the business, and my kids are there with me every day, it's a beautiful thing.
Let me ask you a question. How many kids would you say are in your building at any one given day? Oh, people. Let's just say people in general. Because I've gone in there, and it's
maybe 70, 80.
Right? Every single day.
Every single day.
So if I'm a parent, I have a young child, and, I want them to experience the discipline. I want them to be a part of something greater than themselves. Yep. How would they reach out to you? How do they become a part of that? And what are some of the options that you offer? Like you say, boxing class. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, man. So I think one of the most, one of the best things about my job is, and it's been like this from the beginning. I've been teaching since, coaching since 2014 when I got thrown into it. I was a young amateur, 20 years old, just lost my last fight, and got asked to coach. And I'm like, why am I getting asked to coach right now? And he's like, because, man, like, you know how to motivate, you're intuitive, you have a good brain about it. And from there, the rest is history. You know what I mean? I did it on the side, now I do it full time. But one of the best things I love about it is the fact that I get to see all different walks of life. You know what I mean? I train, a kid who's a barber. I train, branch managers. I train stay-at-home moms. I train guys who want to fight in the nationals. You know what I mean? I train, professional boxers, amateur boxers, children, men almost 60 years old, women almost 60 years old, like everything, every walk of life. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about the sport. So we have various programs. So the easiest way to reach out to me, if you go on Google, just type in Bernardo Boxing, I'll come right up. BernardoBoxing.square site. You can leave us an inquiry there. Our class, the classes we offer are there. Okay. I don't have prices online, and I don't put my schedule online. Sometimes it does flip-flop.
Sure.
But you message me. I'm very, very responsive. It's you know how it is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So either myself or my wife will get back to you, and we will send you the price list. We will send you the class schedule. We'll send you everything that you need to know. Yep. And so BernardoBoxing.square site. That's probably the best way to reach out to us. Sure. Also Instagram. I believe it's Bernardo_boxing FR on Instagram. Yep. Bernardo Boxing on Facebook, or Aaron Bernardo. You can DM me anywhere of those places, and I'm very, very responsive. Sometimes I wish I wasn't, but I'm very attached to my phone. Being a businessman, you have to be.
You have to.
So I'm always on this thing. It's my job. It's my livelihood. It's part of the game. So we're very responsive that way. But we offer a lot. So like I said, we have an amazing kids program, and youth boxing is a hard thing because you're in it for two reasons. Like, either the parents want them to just have some fitness, or they want to compete. It's very hard training kids. Kids are emotional. Parents are even more emotional. You know what I mean? It's very hard. And this isn't like, listen, all the other sports can be dangerous. Basketball, you hurt your ankle, roll your ankle. Football, you can get tapped. But in boxing, you're literally getting punched in the mouth. You know what I mean? So you're sending your 6, 7, 8-year-old, 12-year-old, and you're pretty much telling me, like, hey, it's okay for you to let somebody else punch my kid in the face.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, that's very normal, because it's a sport. It's an art. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
That's what I look at it like. Right. But some people, they just look at it as a fight's a fight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you're walking down the street and, somebody's playing a pickup basketball game, somebody's hitting some baseball, somebody's, throwing a football around, and somebody's fighting, who are you going to turn and watch?
Sure.
You're going to watch the fight, which is what makes the, which is what makes the sport so intriguing. You know what I mean? That's what makes the sport so beautiful. It's a universal language, like Dana White says. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody knows.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows fighting. You know what I mean? We have a disagreement. I punch you in the face. We have a disagreement.
Right.
You know
exactly.
I mean?
There's no question about it.
There's no question about it. There's no language barrier there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so that's a tough thing. But I have to give credit where credit's due. The Fall River Youth Initiative definitely helped out a lot.
Okay.
And it was something that the city of Fall River that partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Fall River, and they gave funds to not just boxing gyms, but dance studios, extracurricular activities, all based for youth, all based for children.
That's great.
Yeah, and they gave us, money for it.
Yep.
And it was COVID relief funds. All businesses that started in COVID, which I opened in COVID.
It's funny, I got it on my list, man. I was just about to segue into that.
Yeah, so we opened in COVID in 2020. Like, I literally opened my first gym, my first space in COVID.
Wow.
And it's a crazy story. It's a cool story. But yeah, so the youth initiative started, and they pretty much covered all of the inner city kids' funds.
Yeah.
And now that's ended. But because my program has grown so much, because of it, I have so many children, my kids don't want to leave. They love it. You know what I mean? They build relationships there and friendships.
Of course.
With me now. So we actually sponsor
not just relationships, bro. Strong relationships.
Strong relationships.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yes. And I love these kids. I really do. I tell them that every day. My teenagers, my kids. I separate the classes from ages 4 years old to 12 years old, and then 13 to 18 for the teenagers. And I tell these kids every week that I'm proud of them and I love them. Like,
do you find that there's a mentoring happening between them, like the older kids helping the younger kids, and
100%?
But that comes from you. They're right. They're watching that.
Yes,
they're seeing.
You know what
that.
I mean? And the first time I asked some of my teenagers to help out during the kids class, like, their eyes lit up and they were nervous. And then after they did it, they ask me every week now. You know what I mean? They love it. And I'm going on vacation next week for my kid's birthday, and one of my coaches, Coach Bobby, shout out to Coach Bobby, he'll be running the class and with the help of the teenagers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I know those kids are in good hands because those teenagers love them. You know what I mean?
Step up. You're giving them an opportunity.
Yeah, they're great kids. You know what I mean? And they've been through some things, and high school's tough, man. You know, middle school's tough, high school's tough.
Yeah.
And I've seen the things they've been through, and it all goes out the window when they come in that gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a funny, I was hard on them. You know what I mean? When they first came to me, I was hard on them.
Yeah.
No bullshit. You know what I mean? I was hard on them, borderline mean.
Yep.
I kind of instilled that fear in them, but more so than fear, respect.
Absolutely.
And I got my respect off rip.
Yep.
And that's something you have to do. You know what I mean? I believe you have to have a little bit of that fear, that little bit of that respect for your trainer.
Yep.
I always did.
Of course.
And they have that now, and now it's just love, man. You know what I mean? Like, they're my kids.
Yeah.
And I would do anything for those kids. So we just sponsored those kids out of our own pocket for the past 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So we just because we wanted to keep them. We have about 60 kids.
Yeah.
And then
how do people, if people want to support and help this, how would they do that? Is there a Venmo? Is there? It's important for people to know how to.
If you go on that website, bernardoboxing.square site, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, it says donate now. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Bernardo's Boxing Charitable Foundation.
Yep.
You can donate to us.
That's great.
So you can click on that donate now. And I want to give a shout out to Trident Environmental Group, one of our biggest sponsors.
Yep.
He just sponsored us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he just sponsored all the kids for another month. So my kids haven't. So the program ended in January. They're not going to have to start to even think about paying a monthly membership until April.
It's huge, man.
And then even when the parents do have to pay, because obviously it's a business.
Sure, of course. Yeah, you got to keep the lights on.
We're offering the lowest rate around in the city right now.
Yeah.
$20 a month. It's a steal, really. Most karate programs are $300 for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
and then you got to do it again. So,
right.
I'm just trying to keep it cheap for the kids, and like it was for me back in the day at the PAL. You know what I mean? It wasn't bad. But we're offering even more, than when I was a kid. Like, your kids are getting one-on-one attention. They're getting multiple coaches adhering to them. They're getting multiple classes a week. You know what I mean? So, they're not just going in the gym and hitting the bag. They're being, like you said, they're being mentored.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And some of these kids are going to be competing. So, like, I'm going to be hosting the Junior Olympics this year, the JO tournament. It's not, it doesn't have Olympic,
ties. Yeah, it's not.
It doesn't have Olympic ties.
Yeah.
At least yet.
Right.
But these kids that do win my tournament, they will go to the summer festival tournament and the nationals in USA Boxing.
That's
so you'll be able to qualify for that. And then from there and then Junior Olympics, the real Junior Olympics. You know what I mean? So it does have some implications. And we're proud to do that. And I have such an amazing team of young kids now.
Yep.
Let's go for it. You know what I mean?
People ask me. I've raised 2 adults. I have a granddaughter, and people say, if you were to give someone advice, if they were having a child for the first time, what's the advice? And I say 2 things: teach them to play the guitar, and teach them how to fight. Teach them to defend themselves, because those are, if you're balanced and you know how to protect yourself, 99% of the time you don't have to fight.
Yeah, it's everything.
So the idea that's what you're cultivating there. You're cultivating these young minds, and you're teaching them self-respect, respect for others, and they know that they can protect themselves, so they're never victims.
I could tell if somebody knows how to fight just by the way they walk. It's true. You know
Confidence.
what I mean? It's different, man. You know what I mean? Like, when I learned how to box, it changed my life. And I tell my kids this all the time, like, look what Coach does now. Now I live my dream job. You know what I mean? Like, I support my family with this. Like, boxing means a little.
I'm so glad I'm so glad you're here, because you are the epitome. This is exactly what the show is about. It's about exactly that, doing what you love, man.
Doing what you love, follow your dreams, man. I was just, I was getting my haircut before this. Shout out to one of my pro fighters, Axel Lopez.
Excellent.
Yeah, just chopped me up a little bit. But just following your dreams. And, if I would have looked back, 15-year-old Aaron would see what 30-year-old Aaron's doing now. 15 years later, I wouldn't believe him.
Right.
I'd punch him in the face. I'd say, you're a liar, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd never believe him. You know what I mean? Like, when I first made this leap, it was a leap of faith. You know what I mean? It was a leap of faith.
Yep.
And, I have my wife, Samantha, to thank for it. Like, she had my back the entire time. She believed in me. And that's what you really need. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Somebody to believe in you, even if they don't go all the way with you.
Yeah.
But that one person to believe in you first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And kind of give you that push.
And I'll ask you a question, but I don't think you'll have an answer. How many lives have you changed, brother? Right?
I hope a good amount, man.
It's without question. Like you'll never know the answer to that question. Yeah. But what an amazing, beautiful question to ask. You know what I mean? Like there are so many people out there, young children that became adults that you've impacted. You know what I mean? And changed the trajectory of their lives. Where a lot of these kids, they don't have opportunity. They're not in neighborhoods and areas that provide them with opportunities to excel and even compete. Mm-hmm. And then here's Bernardo Boxing saying, "Hey, come on in. We'll teach you all the fundamentals. We'll teach you everything you need to know to be a healthy, balanced adult who is not only aware of the community but willing and wanting to support the community."
Definitely, it's it means more to me than anything. You know what I mean? It's a responsibility that I hold near and dear to me, and I feel a responsibility to my community, to my kids, to my fighters. I mean, I have kids in my gym that started with me when they were 16, 17 years old, and are now fighting, winning tournaments or fighting professionally. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cool thing, man. And I look at guys like Libby from back in the day, and how he's so revered now, and I want to be that one day. And there's certain things you can do as a coach that you just couldn't do as a fighter. You know what I mean? And fighters can inspire for sure. Yeah. But as a coach, the lives I've touched and the multiple fighters that I've worked with and the kids that I've worked with and the people that I've helped, it means everything to me, man.
So shift gears a little bit. So competitive Aaron, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about competitive coach.
Yep.
How do you determine what fighters you want to take? Is it their decision? Do they be like, "Hey, I want to go next, coach," or are you watching these kids fight, going, "He's got it, she's got it, we're gonna"?
Yeah. So pretty much, that's awesome, man. You asked a great question. I do things a little different. I bring kids into my gym, and I make sure you can fight first. And then I teach you how to box. A little bit different way, right? Yeah. My gym really, on the competitive side, isn't for the faint of heart. My gym is successful. I've been doing this full time for the past 8 years. And I think I'll continue to do so. And I've figured out my niche and made a career out of it. But while also making it affordable for the fighters and the kids and everybody. But there's a certain way that I do things. If you look at my, like my kids' classes are huge. I have my women programs and stuff, like the small groups. But then you look at the fight teams at night, maybe 10 guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't go crazy. And it's a specific group of people. It's a certain kind of person, a certain flavor, a certain kind of person that's able to do what I need them to do to become successful. And I keep it small, keep it all, and I focus on those individuals. And I watch them grow. And what happens is, I train a fighter. I teach you the movements, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I teach you how to throw your jab, teach you how to throw your right hand, your left hook, teach you my system, you know what I mean? The Bernardo's Bible that I call it.
Yeah.
And I teach you the offensive maneuvers, the defensive maneuvers. I show you all that stuff, right? But then you got to put it into play. You got to put it into play. And some people don't get that right off the rip. You know what I mean? They say like, "Oh man, I'm getting beat up, I'm getting hit, blah, blah." And it's a process, man. I tell people this is a marathon, brother. It's a marathon. You know what I mean? Your eyes have to adjust. You have to become, my fighters, when you really know how to box, every combat athlete, you're a superhero. Right. You know what I mean? That superhero that I always wanted to be.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even till this day, I'm that. I'm different than a lot of men. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I know with my two hands, I could hurt most men.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's not being cocky. That's
no.
That's if I never have to fight in the street in my life ever again, if I never have to defend my family with my hands, then I did good in life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I know if I have to, I can. you know, and the men and women that I train, they can also.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You become superhuman. There's something that, you know, switches in you. For most men to go into a gym every day, right? Every day or every other day, and, you know, run the stairs, do pad work, hit the bags, massive amounts of calisthenics, and then suit up and willingly go into a ring and beat each other up for 6 to 8 rounds nightly. You got to be, you know, you're a different kind of individual.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Most people, what do? They go home, you know, they wake up in the morning, eat breakfast, clock in, go to work the monotonous job, come home, kiss their wife, play with the kids, eat dinner, go to bed.
Yep.
And they do that day in, and day out. You know what I mean?
Perpetual,
right?
Yep.
What I'm doing is teaching people how to be dangerous, and then the opportunity that I'm giving them is, I always tell guys this: I don't care how busy you are, what your job schedule is, what your relationship is outside of boxing. I have one job. My job is to, you know, turn you superhuman, you know, prepare you to the best of my ability, and then give you opportunities that that most normal men and women will never experience. To fight on a World War II battleship in front of 1,500 people.
Crazy, bro. Right? What a crazy event.
To fight at Mohegan Sun Arena. To fight at the CYO Hall in front of 500 people. And, you know, your hometown screaming for you. And you win your professional debut. Like, I'm able to offer you and put you in that position by training you, you listening to me, going through the motions, and then getting to that moment. You know what I mean? But to answer your question, I know I went off a little bit.
No, that's no.
To answer your question, yes, there's every fighter, when they first start with me, they start to hit, you know, the turning point where they start to transition into that fighter. You know, they start to take the hits better. They start to make them miss more. Their eyes start getting adjusted. You know what I mean? And then, you know, I start to see that in the sparring. And there's levels to sparring, right? So you spar in the gym where you're comfortable. First that's scary. But then you start to get comfortable with your teammates. Then you have other gyms come down. Now it's enemy territory. Now enemies coming into your home base.
Right.
Now that adds a whole nother layer. Now we're going to go spar at their home base. Boom. So
emotions, right? A lot of emotion.
So now
right?
There's a little bit more people watching you. They're coaches. You're different surroundings, right? Different area. Now that adds another layer. Then maybe we do some kind of exhibition or open sparring where maybe some people are donating to watch you compete. Now that's a whole. Now this feels like a show, but there's no, there's no judging or anything like that. And then the next level from there is get licensed, get your book, go out there for amateur competition. You know what I mean? And then building an amateur, you know, it's not about losing, it's not about winning, it's about learning, and it's all just reps.
Sure.
And I tell my guys to go out there and, like, we win a lot, but sometimes we lose. You know what I mean? And you go out there and you put in the reps. And once I see an amateur get to a certain point, you know what I mean, we start to assess. You know, I'll sit them down and I'll say, hey, what do you want to be in the sport? Do you have national implications? Like, do you want to go to nationals? You know, would you like to go the professional route? And some people just want to, you know, be able to do this for as long as they can and just say that they did it and they check things off their list. Other people want to be world champions. You know what I mean? I have a kid in my gym, like, I won't say names, but, you know, he could be a professional right now, and he'd probably be the best professional that I have if I turned him right now. But he wants to stay amateur because I believe in him and he believes in himself and he really thinks he can do this. And he's on a losing streak right now. You know what I mean? He's on a losing streak right now. But he's won a lot.
But that's necessary, right?
It's necessary. He's learning. He's fighting the best of the best. He's fighting the best of the best, and he doesn't care when he loses because he knows when he does turn professional one day, if he doesn't win the nationals or he doesn't go to the Junior Olympics or Olympics or whatever, he knows this time right now is going to make him the best fighter possible. So to answer your question, everybody's in it for different reasons. You have to fight amateur in order to go professional. Well, I say that, and actually one of my best professionals never fought as an amateur. Tony Andriozzi, who's one of my other assistant coaches, he was the Massachusetts State middleweight champion. He was a special case. He had been in the ring a lot, done a lot of exhibitions, just a tough individual, and he turned professional. And the reason we didn't turn him amateur, though, it was different times, COVID times.
Okay.
So we're in the middle of COVID. Amateur competition is obsolete right now. Like, it's not happening. It's halted. I took him over. You ever heard of Street Beefs?
No.
Street Beefs is like an online YouTube sensation, like millions and millions of followers.
Yeah.
And you go over to, like, West Virginia, and they give you a location. You go fight in an undisclosed area in the woods in a cage.
Okay, all right.
And they do box, but it's supposed to squash, like, beefs and stuff.
Okay.
I went out there. I took him for that, like, get him some competition.
I have seen some of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of hillbilly.
I mean? It's hillbilly. You know, it's crazy. You know what I mean? But he did that, and he won, and he did well. And literally he did that, and from there I turned to professional. And he had an amazing career. You know what I mean? He won the Massachusetts State title. He did things that most people never thought he could do.
Wow.
But again, when I looked at him, I said, okay, here's a guy who's got a lot of rounds in the gym, who's given really good amateurs trouble. You know what I mean? He's given them hell. He's tough as hell, but he has an awkward style. He's probably not going to do as well in the amateurs. We're in a weird situation right now in the world. World's on fire, right?
Yep.
With COVID. Why waste the time? He's an older guy. Let's turn him professional.
Wow.
At least there'll be some money involved.
Right.
Down the line, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did. And he's had a good career. You know what I mean? So
and he's still fighting now.
So he's on a little bit of a hiatus right now.
Yeah.
He actually had a horrendous injury. He actually snapped like his fibia in half in a fight. Yeah. He got hit, turned the wrong way, broke his leg. But he recovered from that. He fought twice last year. He won his comeback fight by second round knockout, and then he fought in a 1 day 4-man tournament where he fought twice in one night.
Wow.
For a super middleweight title. He won the first round, came up short in the last round. But since then he's been retired. He's dealing with some other injuries right now, but he had an amazing career. And I don't think he's done yet. But everybody's different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Shout out Tony Andriozzi. But everybody's different, man.
Yeah.
Everybody has different paths.
Yeah, but then you see somebody like that, and you're like, they're out there. They're those.
They're out there, man.
For lack of a better word, freaks. These freaks that are just,
you know what I mean?
like you said, superheroes. They do things beyond superhuman capabilities. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And it's just what's awesome about my sport. Like I said, how there's so many different clientele that I have with the women and children. There's so many different fighters. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have fighters that were great amateurs. I have fighters that were not so good amateurs. I have fighters that weren't amateurs at all. And I have fighters that fought in other combat sports and transition to boxing. And they've all done well so far. And that's one thing that I do as a coach. I'm an adaptive coach. So I take what you do well and I build off of it. I don't necessarily try to change you.
Sure.
Because you can't do that.
Right.
Fighters aren't cookie cutter. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to let a fighter be what he's going to be. You know, he has to have fundamentals to rely back on, but you have to build off of that fighter, what he does well. And I just add little niches to their game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much how it goes when it comes to fighters.
So we got a big event coming up, and I want to talk about that in a second. But before we go there, I just want to one more thing. I believe in people, and I think to a detriment at some point. And anytime I see someone that has the similarities in thought that I do, I always like to ask questions. And my question is, how do you know, or how far do you go with someone before you realize, I'm not going to invest any more time in this person? Like, what has to happen where you're like, you know what? Like, I'm putting way too much into this, and the output is not what I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Because I find myself that I tend to see more in people than they're willing to.
Yeah. You can't ever want it more than somebody, right? And
how do you deal with that? How do you identify it, and how do you deal with that?
It's hard because, like, you know, there's two different ways to look at it. You could say, excuse me, you could say, you know, I want it more than this person does, so it's not worth my time. But then you could say, maybe this person's just lost. He needs a mentor, or she needs a mentor. You know, the fact that I do want it more than them is why I'm a coach, is why I'm a mentor, is why I'm a leader. I need to instill this in them. I need to show them that they do, you know, they have the talent, they have the ability. Maybe they just don't believe in themselves enough. You know what I mean? So it's really hard. I'm dealing with that right now. So
what do you say to that person when you come to the point where you're like, okay, like, I got nothing left?
Yeah.
What does that conversation look like?
It's an emotional conversation. You know, it's, you know, depending on the individual you're talking to, it could get ugly at times. But I try to just be real with them and level with them and say, hey, listen, man, like, if I was gonna I would just do it myself. You know what I mean? But, you know, I put myself on the back burner. I'm putting this guy on the back burner for you. And you need to step up or just level with yourself that this isn't what you really want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're at that point, because some people just hold on because you're doing it for them.
Well, and then you're invested, right?
You're invested.
So I've given you so much. I've given you so much that I don't want to walk away right now because I got so much in you.
Yeah, and they know that too, and they know it's probably going to keep on coming, but they're not reciprocating it, but they know it's going to keep on coming. And if you let them know, like, hey man, it's done. You know what I mean? Like, it's done. Like after this, it's done. And this is a conversation I might have to have real soon. But you know, I'm just, you know, I try to my job, like I said, you know, the basis of my job when it comes to competition is like I'm the land of opportunity. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to give opportunity to people. I'm just trying to put you in positions that you'll never be in your life again. You know what I mean? And you got to do it while you're young. You got to do it while you're healthy.
Absolutely.
Our health isn't guaranteed, right?
Right.
Health is wealth, right? But it's not guaranteed, man. Like, you never know what you could wake up with tomorrow, you know? And I've dealt with injuries and sicknesses and things with my life that I wish maybe I would have took advantage more athletically when I was younger, or, when I was.
Amen to that, brother.
Right? I wish I would have took advantage of this a little bit more. And, I'm doing a lot now, and I'm really disciplined now, and I'm locked in now up here. But physically, I wish I could do more. You know what I mean? But I'm limited.
It happens to a lot of us, bro. The brain goes beyond the physical capabilities.
The brain goes beyond the physical capabilities.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I'm limited, and I know I'm limited. But I'm trying. People that I know have the physical capabilities right now, I'm trying to make it limitless for them. You know what I mean?
Are you looking for the next Aaron?
Yeah.
Because I'm always looking for the next Bobby. I'm always looking.
Yeah.
Like, who's next up? Who's.
Yeah. Like I said, my competitive career was nothing to brag about. It was, I didn't do much, but I made a little name for myself, and I knew I was talented beyond most people. But I didn't have the discipline back then. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I didn't have the discipline. I didn't have the focus that I do now. I didn't have the drive that I do now. I was a young kid. You know what I mean? Yep. And, I wasn't really being pushed by my coaches, by my family, and that's okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? It wasn't their job to push me.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Did they support me when I did do it? For sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wasn't their job to push me.
Aaron, do you find it easier that you have some success? Like, you can kind of see it, and you're like, all right, this is totally worth it. I could see the outcome.
For sure. You know what I mean? Like, what I do now, I made it. You know what I mean? Like, fighting for me isn't even really, sometimes it's not even really on the table anymore. Like, do I think about it from time to time, even with an eye injury? And
I have seen you in the ring. Yeah, I can move still. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I can, I'll spar with my guys here and there. You know what I mean? I can move still. And I'm a young guy. I'm only 30 years old. But it's tough. You know what I mean? It's tough to really, I feel like with a fighter, being a fighter, you have to be selfish. And being a coach, you have to be selfless. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And all the best coaches, when they have their best success, I think they do their best in coaching when they stop fighting. I really do. There's coaches that have done both, and they do pretty good. Mm-hmm. But I think they really build their best team, and it's just when you let your ego go, man. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Favorite boxer? Who's your favorite? All time.
It's gonna sound so cliche, but it's true. It's Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. It's so cliche sounding. But
well, no, you say cliche, but you look at it from a different point of view.
Yeah.
To the layman's, we're watching a guy who was an amazing competitor and a great fighter, but there is detail there that, myself does not see, and most people don't.
Yeah, greatest heavyweight of all time, for sure.
You see the detail.
He was. I'm kind of a little bit of a boxing historian, but Ali, in 2 different decades was the world heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? We talk about, Joe Louis and Larry Holmes, who were champions for 10 years, 20 years. So was Ali. If he didn't get, refuse induction to the armed forces and then, get suspended, he dominated the 60s, he dominated the 70s, 2 different eras. He came back after, years laid off and completely lost his legs, adapted his style, and beat the best that they had to offer.
Right.
And you can argue that the heavyweights of yesterday are just as good, if not better, than the heavyweights of today. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, there was always an argument, Tyson Fury versus Ali. I think Ali beats Tyson Fury every single day of the week. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, Primo Carnera was 6'9", you know what I mean? And Max Baer knocked him out. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Not that Tyson Fury, I think he's better than Primo Carnera.
But I think you're talking 2 different ages, even in physique and methods of athletics, right? Yeah. Like, what we know about the human body now, Ali didn't have that information. It was drag logs. You know what I mean?
But he was so great, man. He beat guys like Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
George
Do you think a lot of that too was his personality, the ability to?
Well, yeah, he
was charismatic.
If you hear Mike Tyson talk about Ali, he was so beautiful. He was so beautiful in the way he spoke, but he was like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He was just a dog. You know what I mean? Like 14 rounds with a broken jaw versus Ken Norton. You know what I mean? He didn't care. You know, he went all the way. He didn't give a shit. And that's what I respect about Ali, like the way he was able to adapt his fighting, his fighting ability, and between 2 different decades. But he revolutionized the sport for sure, and he stood for a lot. Yeah. And he was during the segregation era and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And that was a tough era to be a part of, obviously. But one thing I respect about Ali is that, you might not agree, him refusing induction to the army, but whatever he believed in, he stood by it.
Right.
And he didn't care what people thought. Right. And that's something to admire.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there could be 2 thoughts of process there. One, you would say, well, he was afraid to go to war. And the other process was, he didn't believe in war. He didn't believe in the war. He didn't believe what was going on. And,
for sure.
And he had his right to do that.
He had his beliefs and he stood by it. You know what I mean? And yes, and then the devil's advocate can say, well, if
anybody Cassius Clay.
Because he was Cassius Clay. If anybody else did that, they would have been arrested. And you're probably right. But he he was the market for that. You know what I mean? He was the
He was the show, man. It was the show. Absolutely.
Yeah, we would have never had the Mayweathers, the McGregors, the back and forth, the 24/7 shows, you know what I mean? The podcast. Like, I believe, like, he was really, at one point, Muhammad Ali is the most famous person in the world.
Legit. Yeah,
legitimately.
Yeah,
he's the most recognized figure in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Aaron Bernardo's doing okay, Bernardo boxing, but look at that. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, right? Like how he revolutionized the whole sport. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and just the awareness and to carry it.
Yeah.
Real quick question before we get into the show. I just want to the event coming up, I should say. Do you think that mixing the arts, so UFC fighting boxers and boxers fighting UFC, do you think that helps the sports, or does that? Because I got to be honest with you, watching Conor McGregor box, like the whole Mayweather thing, I found it like strange, like the clown show. I don't know. You might feel differently, but to me, I just didn't know that it works. I just don't know that it works.
What an era we're in right now. You know what I mean? We are in the social media age. We are on the age now where, you don't got to do much, man. You know what I mean? A lot of guys that I used to train with back in the day, they're like, oh, man, if social media was around back then, I'd be famous. Maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But social media is a business, man, and social media is a grind. In order to be prominent on social media and you know, get the followers and get the people out there, you got to work hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a different kind of work. You know what I mean? Maybe not the work that we're used to. Maybe the kind of work that my grandfather would frown upon. You know what I mean? God rest his soul. If he saw that today, he'd be like, that's what you do for work, right?
Yeah.
If I was an influencer, but we're all kind of influencers, right? Like when you promote and do this, we're all.
You can't survive without it.
You can't survive without it. At the end of the day,
nobody knows you here. Like,
or this show, my gym, everything. You know what I mean? So some people say, "Oh, you're an Instagram guy, you're a Facebook fighter, you're this and that." It's part of the game. I am what it takes. You know what I mean? And it's part of the game now. And if you can't adapt to the game and the way of the world, you know what I mean? You're not going to survive. So the big thing, right? Mixed martial arts, right? Just to go back to that point. Mixed martial arts is an amazing sport. I've had a lot of experience dealing with different mixed martial artists, amateur and professional. And I've had dealings with them in boxing, dealings with them in mixed martial arts. A mixed martial artist is a jack of all, jack of all trades, master of none. You know what I mean? Or maybe a master of all trades. But just he's not a master to any one discipline. In order to be a proficient boxer, you start as a young person, or even an older guy, whatever. But that's all you're doing, and it takes all of your ability. All of your time, the stance, everything, it's all adapted to boxing. All you're worried about is the triangle, right? The eyes, the shoulders, and that's all you're worried about. You know what I mean? And the two hands. And at mixed martial arts, there's so many different weapons coming at you, so many different things. Even when you transition into boxing from mixed martial arts, your stance is going to be different. Your timing is going to be different. The way you spar, the way you train, it's all going to be different. Yep. A lot of mixed martial artists, there's more money in boxing, especially on the low level, the regional circuits. There's more money in boxing. So a lot of mixed martial artists locally, instead of, for extra money, they'll compete in professional boxing. In the business of boxing, those guys are used to move up the proficient boxers, the guys that are the A sides. You know what I mean? Some promoters say they'll hate that term, but they use it, and they know it's a big part of the sport.
Okay.
There's the A side, B side on the regional, local level, and then there's the A side, B side on the high level.
Does that help? Do you think that helps the sport a little bit? Does that help it kind of move it along?
It makes it go around.
Right.
You need it. You know what I mean? So these mixed martial artists are coming into boxing. They just want to get paid. You know what I mean? They're in there for different reasons. You know what I mean? Sometimes I call them the real fighters, though. Like, they're in there to pay their rent that month. You know what I mean? They got a little hut, and you know what I mean? Or they're Uber drivers on the side, and they just need to pay their rent or pay child support, whatever they need to pay.
Wow.
And they go in there, they take a beating, and they get their money. And a lot of the times, the A side, the professional boxer who was a great amateur, all of his, he's using sponsors and ticket sales, and he's covering the cost of his opponent. So so the promoter can, stay safe and bring in that opponent to make them look good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And a fight's a fight. You know what I mean? It only takes one punch. I've seen plenty of B sides beat the A side. I have one of them in my gym. Alfred Keenan Raymond. He's called an upset specialist. He's fighting on March 29th. All of his wins and all of his draws are against unbeaten fighters.
Oh, wow.
Fighters that he was supposed to lose to, he beat. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that happens sometimes because it only takes one punch. You're wearing 10-ounce gloves, 8-ounce gloves, anything can happen. You know what I mean? It only takes one punch to change the course of a fight.
Yeah.
But, these guys are brought in, to, make the other guy in a favorable position. You know what I mean?
That happens on the professional level as well. Like
100%.
Yeah,
it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
And I can speak about this now. And I'm a matchmaker. You know what I mean? I've promoted shows, and I'm a coach. I'm a manager, and everybody knows about it. You know what I mean? Like, Tony Jeffries, who has one of the biggest Instagram pages around, was an Olympian. He talks about that. You know what I mean? So this is no secret. It's just this is just the game.
Process.
This is the process. The game of professional boxing. You know what I mean? Professional boxing and mixed martial arts, but boxing maybe even more so. Mixed martial arts too. Mixed martial arts is as old as me. It's crazy. It's 30 years old. You know what I mean? It's fucking crazy. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
No, of course you can.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's a crazy thing. But if you think about it, what other professional sport? Bobby Kudo. I could make you a professional boxer right now if I wanted to. If you could pass a physical, I'm saying this for real. Everybody, your producer, everybody. If you guys can pass a physical, right? And then I can sign a letter of attestation saying that you're a good enough boxer and I've trained you. I can get you a federal ID card and you can become a professional boxer.
Wow.
And you can fight on March 29th.
Wow.
100%. What other professional sport can you do that? You can't. You can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't.
So because that's the way of the sport, there's such a big gap between, you know what I mean, the high level. A lot of the local guys and trainers will be like, oh, boxing needs a minor league. Well, this is the minor league, buddy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Unfortunately, like New England and the regional level, like, this is the minor league.
Is that Boston Boxing Promotions?
Yeah. Okay. Which is a club boxing show. You know what I mean? It's a professional boxing entity, and Peter Zimbor, shout out to him, who's the promoter, and his partner, Nick DeSalvio. They're unbelievable promoters. They've built up a lot of pros with me, and I've worked with them for a long time. I commentate on their shows. I coach fighters on their shows. I've worked for them. Like, they're great promoters. Are they the ones that put this Forever Fight Night together? Yeah, we're partnering together, and they're doing the Forever Fight Night,
And which is amazing. Yeah. So I did some research on it and went look, and I mean, the card is pretty packed.
It's a stacked card, and the cool thing about this card is it's local talent. So, you're not really seeing squash matches where, like I just talked about, the guy from Brazil or Mexico's coming up, and they're kind of like the sacrificial lamb, or you kind of know what's going to happen, foregone conclusion, or you can kind of guess. Yeah. A lot of these fights are what we call 50-50 fights. You got to bet on them. And you don't really know what's going to happen. It's a lot of local fights, and what's even cooler about it is even the fighters that I'm not cornering that aren't on my team, I've trained most of them.
No kidding. So in case the audience doesn't know, they're going to know now. So Fall River Fight Night, and that's going to be on March 29th at the CYO, and that's at 403 Anawan Street. If people want tickets, how do they get those tickets?
So they can contact me, Aaron Bernardo. You can, same way you would try to inquire to, sign up for classes or personal training. BernardoBoxing.square site. You can message me and come into the gym. I can get them to you. You can also go on BostonBoxingPromotions.org and grab the tickets there online.
Sure.
So we have online sales. We have in-person sales. Just hit me up. We have plenty of fighters, in the gym selling tickets right now. And when you do buy directly from me or the fighters, you are supporting them more.
Excellent.
Because they do see a cut of that.
Great. And so the Bobby Kudo show is going to be giving away some of those tickets.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is anybody for the audience, go over and follow the Bobby Kudo show and share that with the Bobby Kudo show and tag Aaron on that as well. And we'll reach out and 4 tickets, man. We'll give away 4
amazing,
tickets,
man.
bro.
I appreciate that. It's awesome.
Do whatever we can do to support and help the
awesome.
cause, brother. I'm grateful that I can be a part of it. I really am.
It's awesome, man.
I talk about you. I talk about your sister all the time, dude. Anybody that asks me, they're aware because again, it's such a huge part of the community.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to be an anchor in downtown Fall River.
Yeah, bro.
Bring that back to life.
Absolutely, you are. And I'm so absolutely grateful for it. So just real quick, I want to talk a little bit about the fight that night, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah.
So Jonathan Delgado. So this kid is from Milford, Mass. He's a welterweight, and he's 3-1. Only loss was a draw.
Yeah. So he's still undefeated. So how they would do it's 3-0-1, and he's got 3 KOs. So he's got no losses. He's got 1 draw. His last fight was a draw. He was recovering from the flu.
Yeah.
And he actually did have a knee injury as well. But he's completely recovered now. He's looking good. He's back in camp. We were just a little bit slow with that fight. I thought we won, but it ended up becoming a draw. No big deal. No harm, no foul. And like I said, it's a learning experience. Just how the amateurs is a learning experience. The pro level on this stage right now.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to shit on pro boxing when I say minor league. Well, all I'm saying is that this is just a little bit lower level. But Boston Boxing, like Peter Zimbor, he's got he's worked with DeBella. He's got one of my other fighters who's going to be featured on the card. He's the USBF heavyweight champion, Jonathan Gruber.
Okay.
He's fought on DeBella Entertainment twice. He's fought on the world stage. He's fought on DAZN. For DeBella. And
bro, I've been to a couple of your events. They're awesome. They're amazing.
Yeah,
Gary's been there. We went to the Battleship. If people don't know, that was in August. Wasn't that in August?
In August, yep.
It was in August. We had a show on the bow of the Big Maymay in Fall River, the Battleship.
It's a big deal. You know what I mean?
Bro, it's huge. It's an amazing deal. It's beautiful. Watching the sunset, drinks flowing everywhere, dude. Everybody great energy, and watching these fighters, dude, from what, 6 years old?
Yeah, I think 8 years old.
8 years old, like tiny little. I get mad. It's like going skiing and you see these little kids come flying by you. Yeah. It's them, man. You watch these.
Yeah,
they're
in there banging,
right?
They're doing things and making that walk that most grown men will never do.
Seriously, right?
And they're 8 years old doing it.
What an amazing event, bro! I want to share that with you. That not for any other reason, bro. Anybody that I talked to, Gary was there as well, and we were talking. We had an episode of the Under the Bridge here the other day. And we were talking about and how much fun we had. And my cousin David, as a matter of fact, was like, Bobby. He's like, I was a teenager the last time I had that much fun. So,
that's awesome.
Dude, it was an amazing night.
That makes me feel good. That's why we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes beyond boxing. You know
absolutely,
what I mean?
Bro. It's the event.
These are the events that becomes its own thing, right?
Yeah.
Now it's memories for not just kids but adults. You know what I mean? It's pretty awesome.
Coach, I love the city. I'm born and raised in the city, bro. So for me to drive by at the Battleship all the time and it's just sitting there, and to be a part of it, be on it, experience something like that, say to myself, well, this is, dude, that's an outright proof of your contribution to the city and to the community.
Just a kid from Fall River, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm 30 years old, man. I've done things that I can't even believe I've done. You know what I mean? So
and continue to do, bro. And continue
it's
an
unbelievable thing, man. I'm blessed, man. Like, feels like a simulation I'm living. Sometimes it's I've done so many amazing things, but not just in my business, but in my personal life with my family. Like, I've definitely won. Yeah. So it feels good.
No, you're winning, bro. And just real quick before we walk out of here, I want to ask you a question, bro. What do you do, bro, when you're not working, bro? What do you do for fun, man? What's Aaron doing when nobody's around, bro? What do you?
Yeah, just more work now. But I've actually picked up. My father's an artist, and growing up, I always revered my father and how amazing of an artist he is. And now he's a tattoo artist, and he's done murals for people. He does just amazing.
No kidding.
Things. Yeah, my father's.
He does it professionally.
Yeah, professionally.
Where at?
Yeah. So, well, he has a studio in his house, and he's worked for. He doesn't do it anymore, but he worked at a studio for a while. But now he just does he just art for people and stuff like that. So it's pretty amazing. And I've always watched him do that my entire life. And so I just picked up drawing.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and I taught myself how to draw. And I'm getting better and better. You know what I mean?
So what are you doing? Doing comics and?
Yeah, I just draw. I'll just draw different comic book characters and things for my kids, and it's been a nice little release for me. You know what I mean? So I do stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'll draw. Hang out with my kids. Go ride scooters and bikes with my kids, and it's nice to separate from boxing for a little bit.
Absolutely.
But all the things I like to do is, I like to be in the gym and just worry about me sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just get a lift in or hit the bag and just kind of fall in love with it again, and because that's what it comes down to, is just that little 14-year-old kid that was punching the heavy bag at PAL. You know what I mean? Or at JoJo's or in his dad's basement, just hitting the bags, hitting the speed bags, and that's where the love comes from. That's the original. That's the origin of it. All this other business stuff and matchmakers and this and that and stuff that's been chalked on top of it. It's amazing.
Is religion a big part of your life? Do you consider religion a part of your life?
I wish it was more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I wish it was more.
I'm not putting you on the spot. I struggle with religion, and that's anytime I ever talk to someone successful and I have an opportunity to have a conversation like this, because I wonder if it's what I'm missing in my life. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm at. And I always ask someone to be like, hey, how do you deal with religion?
Yeah, we're the same with that, brother. Yeah. Same. You know what I mean? I grew up as a Roman Catholic. Yeah. 8 years of Sunday school and catechism.
Me too, man.
Communion, confirmation, and my wife did it too. Yeah. And my kids aren't. You know what I mean? My kids weren't baptized. No communion for them, nothing like that. Yeah. My wife has a hard time with religion. She don't really, she has a hard time believing in that stuff. I don't want to put her personal.
No. Right.
But she has, but whatever. She doesn't care. But she has a hard time with religion. And in turn, it's made me have a hard time with religion. Right. And not just because of her, just because of life, man. You know what I mean? As you get older, you know what I mean? I've seen so many different things, and you just question, you know what I mean? Yeah. You question God, and you question why, and you question this and that, and certain people leave your life, and certain people get sick or hurt, and you wonder, why?
Why did that have to happen?
Why did this have to happen? Why is it? And, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, man, but do I want to believe in God? For sure. I want to believe in all that. I do, all the time. You know what I mean? And I think a part of me still does, but parts of me have doubts, and I don't know if that's, good for that religion or not, but I have doubts, you know what I mean? And sometimes I think I need it more in my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just wish I had it a little bit more in my life, to give you just something to kind of center back on. You know what I mean? But all in all, I still consider myself a Catholic. maybe not the best Catholic, but who is?
Yeah, dude, I'm not anti-church. I'm not any of that. Yeah. Like I took my mom to the Azores over the summer, and we went to see.
But I know what you mean, like something to fall back on, something to believe in, because you know what I mean. Yeah. I've been a big advocate for men's mental health too, like on my social media and all that too. And I've done it all.
Yeah, me too, bro. Mental health.
Yeah, I went to therapy.
I go once a month, bro. I go once a month.
It's important. I wish I would do it more. Like right now, I'm my therapist just retired, so I haven't seen him in a good year and a half.
I got a guy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We could talk for sure.
Awesome. We'll talk after the show.
So, you know what I mean. I didn't see him as much, but it's nice to kind of have that outside entity to kind of like he's not family, he's not my friend really. He's just he can become that, but he's nothing. He has no implications in your life whatsoever. Right. No stake in the game, and you can just kind of let everything out to them. So that's nice to have. You know what I mean. But the therapist I did have would talk about that. Yeah. He would say maybe you need religion. Yep. Maybe it's something you can fall back on, and because I've had a lot of issues with like existentialism. I've had existential crisis before. About 3-4 years ago, I had a massive existential crisis. Like I'm in my late 20s. I got 3 kids. I got a house. Boxing is my job. You know what I mean? I own a gym.
Right.
Like I was just doing like things that like it just didn't seem real, and I almost had everything I ever wanted. Like I left a state job that I was miserable at, and my wife's, I'm able to support my wife, and she's able to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of our kids, and like I had everything. I remember my parents and friends being like, "This dude, like you got it all, bro. Yeah. Why you acting like this, man? Why you sad, bro?
Crazy feeling.
Why you upset? Why you lost? You got it. I wish I had what you had." And I'm like, I can't explain it. Right. I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think when your mental health is in a really bad state, you just don't know.
Absolutely, you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah. And I wonder, right? Not to cut you off, you wonder if those are the moments where some people would reach out to Jesus or to that
like
higher
I
power,
used to think
right?
that, like, will God help me now, or is God punishing me, or am I feeling like this because I don't have God in my life, right? And man, no, I totally know what you're saying. Yeah. And
I totally appreciate that, man.
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. So, luckily, I got through that, but we always struggle. You know what I mean? Every day. You know what I mean? Like,
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch?
Yeah.
So, Scott Ross, he's one of the lead, and he's a friend of mine. He actually has a studio over by WOW.
Oh, cool.
And I had the opportunity to sit down with him, and not on the podcast, but we were just talking, and we're talking shop and business and this realm, because he's still in the entertainment business. Yeah. And I asked him that same question. I'm like, Scott, you're so successful. You do so great in your life. I'm like, is religion a part of that? And it was a funny story, man, because that's why I always love to ask that question. He looked at me and he said, you know what, Bobby? I have a funny story about religion. He goes, we grew up, we were Catholic. He goes, and right around 5 years old, he's like, my mom decided to change religion. She became a Jehovah's Witness. He goes, and me and my brothers were all close in age. He goes, at that point, we had to realize that we were going to give up every birthday party. We were going to give up Christmas. We were going to give up all the holidays. They were all gone. And, when you go from not knowing any better, you don't know. He goes, but being 5 years old and knowing what those things were, and now we were giving them up for a belief that we really weren't sure of. Yeah. He goes, so I'm an adult now. He goes, and that's kind of like, that's how I kind of feel about religion. I kind of have a resentment towards religion. And I said to myself, wow, that's so just profound, that experience in our lives, because, you talk to some people, I think of like really successful people like Andy Frisella from First Forum, Real AF podcast. And he is all about Jesus. And he talks about how Jesus is his Lord and Savior. And I say to myself, gee, is that what it takes to get to that level? Is that what I'm missing? And
no, I feel you. Even some of the best boxers, you know what I mean? Like Andre, Ali's one of my favorite fighters. One of my favorite fighters, Andre Ward, and he has an amazing podcast too. It's called The Art of Ward, but he's all about God, and his nickname's the Son of God. SOG. His nickname's the Son of God, and but like I totally know what you're saying. Like is that what it takes for us to get to that next level? Like, hey, we've done pretty well, but in order to become this, maybe be on the world stage, do I need God in my life? You know what I mean?
Or some form of that.
Some form of religion, right? Like something,
Right.
I think about it all the time, and I go back and forth on it. And I'm guilty of it. You know what I mean? Whenever something bad's happened in my life, I'll pray. You know what I mean? But I don't tend to pray as much when the good things are happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
Why is that?
Right.
Why is that? I'm just like, that's not great either. You know what I mean? That's a flaw. But you work on those things, and you just kind of go through it, and You know, life's a mystery, man.
It really is, man.
At the end of the day, one of the biggest things I had trouble with for the longest time was just being in the moment.
Yep.
And I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason that I do what I do. Like, it's event after event. I just had a meeting, you know, with the president of USA Boxing, you know, before I came here. And Golden Gloves is a separate entity from USA Boxing New England. So even though we're in Golden Glove season right now, it's not my season, you know. So now that Golden Gloves is kind of coming to an end, my season's happening again.
Gotcha.
So, you know, you're going to see the Battleship again.
Yeah.
We're hosting the Junior Olympic Tournament and some other show. And we got the Pro Show coming up. And it's just my life, man. Like, having other people's lives in my hands, having their problems on my lap comforts me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It keeps me occupied. It keeps my brain occupied. Staying busy with my business, having doubts about my business, having doubts about certain deals, being stressed out, all of these things, it helps my mental health.
Yeah.
But it hurts my mental health at the same time. As much as I think it's helping, it's hurting at the same time.
Right.
So it's good to find that balance, but I've always had a hard time with just being in the moment and appreciating the here and now.
Well, you were just awarded a huge award too, right? Like you.
Yeah, I was awarded Trainer of the Year.
Right, because you like nobody's bringing that up. You're not talking about it. I think I saw one post about it and nothing ever again. Like I was going through your social, and like, that was it, dude. So like I want to say congratulations to you, bro. Man. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, it means a lot. And I mean, you know, it was one organization, but it's one of the biggest promotions in New England that awarded me that, and it meant a lot for them to.
And what's the award? Could you just explain to the audience?
It was Boston Boxing Promotions Trainer of the Year.
Trainer of the Year.
And I believe we went like I think 6-2. On that promotion last year, but we for my professional fight team we went 10-3 last year.
Yeah.
So and those 3 losses were all tight losses, you know.
Yeah.
So 10 professional wins last year. I managed 7 professional boxers. Wow. Most of them, you know, from the ground up. And yeah, man, it's just I'm on that list with other, you know, the other trainers that are on that list are, you know, old enough to be my fathers and grandfathers. You know what I mean? So I'm the youngest trainer on that list too. That's not really been talked about. I'm the youngest trainer on that list. So it was definitely a big accomplishment for me.
Huge.
And like I said, you know, being that 15, 14-year-old kid, walking in the PAL and seeing those guys, and now I'm the guy that's...
Hey, one day you're going to be Trainer of the Year, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, man, one day you're going to be Trainer of the Year. Like, I'm recognized as that guy.
Right.
Now I have this building where I operate out of, that, you know, maybe the third professional boxing show that Fall River's seen in the last 30, 40 years is going to be hosted at.
Yeah.
The first one ever at the CYO. Like, it's an amazing thing, you know what I mean? It feels good. Feels more than good to be in that position.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Well, bro, I want to say thank you so much for making the time to come out here. And
absolute,
you know what, dude? I didn't doubt it for 1 second. Absolute pleasure to have a conversation with you, bro. I'm hoping that we could do this more often.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I've had Justin.
Stuff.
I had Justin on the show a long time ago, and that's Justin's kind of the one that brought me in. Like
Justin. Yeah, shout out to Justin Rotowski. Justin is a good dude, man.
He's the ring dude. I see him putting that ring together for you every single time, man. He's an animal.
We do it together. We have a great. He's part of my ring crew, so it's myself, Justin, a kid Nick Kearns, Gabe Giles, one of my amateur fighters, and Bobby Tebow, who's one of my assistant coaches. Yeah. They're my core group. So I need about 6-7 guys to have it really go good.
Yeah.
But those 4 guys, those 4 or 5 of us, almost every professional and amateur ring across New England.
Wow.
They use my boxing ring.
Is your wife is making the? Did she make those?
Oh yeah, she makes. Oh yeah, So she does all that stuff. So my wife makes all my merchandise.
Yeah,
and
she makes it.
Yeah, she makes it all, like everything. Like
she's not ordering it; she's making it.
Oh yeah, she makes it all.
That's crazy. That's
everything. And then yes to the show yesterday, and the rope spacers.
Yes.
Yeah, the rope spacers that they use, she made them.
That is cool, man.
She made those. So she does those for other rings too.
Yeah.
We're in the ring business too. In order to become successful in business, like boxing is one avenue, right?
Yeah, you have to, of course.
You need to create different avenues for yourself.
It's
and that's
a
great
segue, bro. And that's what I was going to ask you, bro. 5 years. What do you see Bernardo Boxing? What's coming for Aaron? What's down the pipe?
I think another location.
Okay.
Yeah, I think another location. I think I'm really close to that, and I don't know if it'll be in the city or it'll be in another city, but I think I want to branch out to another location.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I can do it now. So yeah, second location for sure. I want to create jobs and avenues for some of my fighters so they have life after fighting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want them to be able to do what I did, you know what I mean, and have the opportunities that I had. So especially these core guys that have been so loyal to me and been with me for years. You know what I mean? So like I said, on the floor of a fight night, I think there's like 7 or 8 fighters on the card, and I've worked with every single one of them.
Wow.
At one point or another. One of them we're fighting. You know what I mean? One of them, Jonathan Delgado, was fighting. You know, I trained him, and now we're fighting him, and that happens. But you know, and whether they love me or hate me now or whatever, or they don't have anything towards that, I hope at one point in their lives I touched them. You know
Absolutely, that without question.
And you know, and I made an impact in their careers, in their lives and their livelihoods or whatever it may be. But yeah, you know, this is what I do. And I'm just going to continue to do it to the best of my ability.
Perfect. So March 29th, we show up. What do we got? We got some refreshments there. We got food.
Like we'll have there'll be drinks there. We'll have a full bar.
Excellent.
You know, so like we'll have a cash bar there.
Excellent.
And then we're going to have some food. You know what I mean? I think we'll have some pizzas there and stuff like that. We'll have some snacks and refreshments. Yeah, man, it's going to be great.
What time should people show up?
So the doors are going to open at 6 o'clock. First fight's going to be at 7. We have a stacked card, so I'll just give a shout out to all the fighters that I have on it. So we have the undefeated Jonathan Delgado. He's 3-0, 3 knockouts, 1 draw. He's fighting Ricky Jordan. That's a Fall River versus Fall River fight. Both guys undefeated, 3-0 versus 1-0. And that fight has a lot of implications with it. You know what I mean? Like both guys are early in their career; they're putting their O's on the line. But hey, it's time to step up a little bit.
They want the win.
They want it, and it means a little bit more. There's some bragging rights here. You know what I mean? So then we got Jonathan Gruber. He's the USBF heavyweight champion. He fights out of Bernardo's boxing. He's fighting Liam Harriman, who he won the Northern New England Golden Gloves. He's 1-0 right now. We actually have a win over him in the amateurs with Alex Nenevy, who's making his professional debut.
Brothers, right? There's brothers, right?
Yeah, there's brothers.
Okay.
I'll get into them real quick. So, so Jonathan's fighting. We have Alfred Keenan Raymond, who's fighting Johnny Kim, who I also trained, and they're fighting each other now. So that's a big fight. And then we have Alex Nenevy, who is 4 or 5-time amateur champion, 2-time New England champion, battleship champion, CYO, all that stuff.
Wow.
And Rocky Marciano champion, all that stuff. He had a great amateur career. He's got over 20 amateur fights, and he's making his professional debut.
Nice.
And his brother, Daniel Nenevy, is making who's also an amateur boxing champion of mine. He is making his amateur MMA debut.
Oh, wow.
In 2 weeks. For Combat FC. Yeah, which will be streamed live on UFC Fight Pass.
No shit.
It's a big deal. Yeah, we have another one of our pro MMA fighters who's also a pro boxer, Everett Desailly, also fighting on that card. So we got 2 mixed martial arts fighting in February.
Wow.
The day before that fight, we have Christopher Rivera fighting in the All New England Golden Gloves Tournament of Champions, which is the biggest tournament in New England. So he's fighting in that. He's in the semifinals. Yeah, man, we're busy. So,
dude, success everywhere, bro.
Yeah, man, the Nenevy brothers too. So, like, give a shout out to Bill Nenevy from Try Environmental Group. He's the one that sponsored our kids program for this last month. And they're just a great family, great people.
Yeah, they are.
And their sons are badasses.
Yeah.
You know, they're a fighting family. Their father was a mixed martial artist.
Yeah.
Their mother's a black belt in Krav Maga.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're
so
a fighting
it's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
That's
they're
awesome,
a fighting
man.
family.
That is awesome.
I met them years ago.
Love to hear that.
Yeah, through one of my fighters, assistant coach of mine, introduced me to them. And me and Alex just kind of, we just hit it off. We kind of just fell in love in a coach-fighter relationship. And he's been with me ever since, like almost about 3 years now. And we had a great amateur career. I expect him to have a great professional career. And I love those guys. So we'll take care of them. I expect to go, right now I got 4 pros on the card. We're working on putting a 5th one on, which is also kind of unprecedented, like to have that many pros on one card.
Right.
And it's at my venue. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be wearing a few hats that night, but I've done it before.
I'll tell you what, anybody who hasn't been to one of those events, do it. It's such a great night out. Yeah, especially, you could take the family. You could 100%. Take your girl, you could go with your boys, you could take the family. It's the kind of event that anybody can go to and have a great, wonderful time. And even if you're considering maybe, putting your children into something like that, it's a great opportunity to be like, wow, this is what it's like. This is what it looks like.
And what's cool about it is multiple of those guys that you're going to see competing that night work with the kids. Alex works with the kids. Keenan works with the kids. You know what I mean? Like, Jonathan, his sons fought for us before. So, all of these fighters and athletes that you see that are fighting on these big stages, they're still humble enough to work with the little kids. You know what I mean? And build up the next generation. And that's a beautiful thing, giving back,
Yeah. Aaron, thank you so much for making the show, bro. I cannot thank you enough. I always say I want to elevate the show, and it's people like you that elevate the show. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just my name across a right? And like none of this matters,
listen, man,
dude.
Without people like you, thank you for giving people like me a platform to be able to kind of share my story a little bit. And I've been on some a lot of podcasts, but this is one of the best ones I've been on. This setup's awesome.
Hey, thank you,
awesome.
Man.
I can't wait to see it afterwards.
Appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
Awesome.
Means a lot to me. Aaron, thank you so much.
Pleasure, brother.
Bernardo Boxing.
You,
anybody, please support the show, the BobbyKudoShow@gmail.com. If you haven't, please do so and support the show. Follow on Apple, Spotify, you name it. We're everywhere. Go give the show a listen. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything you do. And remember, support your community. And never forget that all roads lead here.
Perfect.